Alrighty. All right, well, technology. So welcome to the Greater Palm Bay Chamber of Commerce and our June Chamber Chat. We're really thrilled to have you join us today. And I have two co-hosts with me today. I think all of you know I'm Nancy Peltonen, President and CEO of the Greater Palm Bay Chamber of Commerce. And to my left is Keith G. with the Children's Hunger Project, the Executive Director. And to my right, I have a special guest, Richard Kolleda, and he is the owner of Spherion Staffing. So we are talking about best practices and trends in hiring right now. But before we get into that, I want to tell you a little bit about what's going on at the Chamber with some of our upcoming events. There's our lovely graphic that you can see, and that is our Disaster Recovery Expo. That's coming up on July the 18th, and it's 8:30 to 12 at Eastern Florida State College Palm Bay campus. It's free to attend, but if you'd like to have a tabletop, we're expecting about 150 people, and you can do showcase your business with a tabletop. We are excited because we have the City of Palm Bay is partnering with us and the SBA. So there's great panelists. We are talking about not just hurricanes. I think people, especially here locally, when they say disaster, think hurricanes. But we'll be discussing insurance, your recovery with 5-star claims adjusting, what to do if you have a flood or, water intrusion or a fire. We'll have a discussion about financing, because for most small businesses, if you are not up and running within 10 days after you close your doors, you're most likely not reopening. So we'll have that conversation. Active shooter, unfortunately, it seems to be our reality right now. So we'll have discussions on how to handle that, how to prepare for it. IT. Our website was down for a full day on Monday. So then, how that affects your business. If you don't have internet, they'll be discussing the backups that you should be looking at, testing that you should be doing, just to make sure that your business is safe and secure. So there'll be Q&A. We'll have 2 different panels and then a keynote speaker, and he's going through a whole checklist of what you need to do to make sure your business is safe. So join us, and that is July 18th, free for anybody to attend, so let others know about it. And it's at Eastern Florida State College, the Palm Bay campus off of Malabar Road. We also have coming up, at the end of this month, is our Brevard Business Professionals, and that is always our last Tuesday of the month at Red Ginger at the mall, Melbourne Mall. And so we have Daniel Rook. He's an artist, author, and inventor, and he is amazing with search engine optimization. He is an amazing businessman. It's free for our members to come, so breakfast is included. You just have to register ahead of time, and we'd love to have guests come, because really Shannon Grounage is our chairwoman this year of the BBP, and phenomenal speakers, phenomenal networking. So we encourage you to come to that. And then our luncheon speaker for July designs he's another artist. It was kind of funny, we have an artist and an artist, but he designs the patches for the shuttle for the 46th Space Congress. He is just really amazing, works with astronauts to come up with what graphics they're looking at. So he'll have a PowerPoint presentation. You'll get to see some of the amazing things that he's worked on. So pretty excited about having him on July the 10th. We are not meeting the 3rd, which is usually our first Wednesday of the month. Because of July 4th, we're doing it on the 10th. So make sure you get that on your calendar. And then one other fun thing that we're doing is our Brevard Business Connection. It's our after-hour mingle, but we're going to go kayaking or paddleboarding, if you prefer, at Ballard Boards. It's on the 24th. It's 4 to 7. You can bring your family out. It's $20 for 2 hours of kayaking. We're going to have hot dogs and s'mores, which I'm just going for the s'mores, and it'll be a lot of fun. It's just near, it's on North Harbor City Boulevard, but it is just south of Sarno Road. It's right across from Kelly Ford there. So we'll be having more information about that. But really, it's going to be a really nice after-hour networking event. So that is it for some of the great things that are happening at the Chamber. But check our website, greaterpalmbaychamber.com, and you can see everything that we have going on. So I think to start us off, Richard is our expert. He has been in this business how long now?
Since 2006.
Okay. So he is our go-to guy. I'm going to get us started off. We'll jump in with some things, but he has this report that Spherion has been doing for quite a few years, and talking about an executive summary of the workforce study that they do. So really excited to see or hear some of the trends that are happening.
Thank you, Nancy. I appreciate the invitation today.
I'm glad you could make it.
Well, I'm trying not to just look out the window at the water.
That's
so
the toughest challenge.
Yes, you'll have to excuse me if sometimes I just kind of gaze away, just elbow me, and I'll know I need to get back on track here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, clearly it's no surprise to anybody out there that right now with 3% unemployment, we're in a different part of the market than we've ever experienced. For the first time ever in the history of this country, there are more jobs than there are people to fill the jobs. And I'm not talking about qualified people. I'm just talking about real bodies to fill all of the jobs that are out there. So clearly it's an employee-driven market.
Right.
The reason where we're at now, and it's not going to change over the next 20 to 30 years. We've not produced enough babies in this country to keep up with the workforce demand.
Right.
So where we're at today is going to become the new norm, and it really becomes important for employers to figure out strategies to recruit and retain the workforce that they want. And of course, with the limited numbers, you're either talking about somebody who's coming into your community, or you are recruiting that person from some other employer in the market. I mean,
sure.
Those are kind of your two options. So,
or robots.
and that will come as well. And I know there's a lot of the sky is falling, the sky is falling.
Right.
All that is going to do, quite frankly, is mean that we're going to need a more skilled workforce than we have today. So it creates a separate issue, and that comes into a skills gap conversation that also a part of this conversation and situation that we find ourselves in.
Okay.
The interesting part today is that we have numerous generations in the workforce. Clearly, we have my generation, the baby boomers, which, we used to be the king of the hill.
Right.
We're now number 3 as far as the largest segment in the workforce.
Wow.
The largest segment in now is Generation Y.
Okay.
There's about 56 million of them in the workforce.
Wow. And what are their ages?
That's born from 1981 to 2000.
Okay.
Then you got the Generation Xers, and there's about 53 million of them, and that's 65 to 80.
Okay.
And then you got the baby boomers. There's about 41 million of us.
Retiring every day.
10,000 retiring a day.
Wow.
And then you have the Gen Z, which are the youngest population, and there's only about 9 million of them in the workforce now, but they're born after 2000. So they're 18, 19, 17, 18, 19-year-olds, that are just getting into the workforce now.
That's really small, though, then, 9 million.
Well, we just had that conversation. We didn't have enough babies.
Yeah, okay.
So, the generations.
But that's huge.
Well, it's huge going forward because, again, it takes 18 years for that person to make it to the workforce.
Right. Oh, my goodness.
Just beginning into the workforce. So, again, we have a different situation today than we've ever had.
Got you.
And, those organizations that become creative and receptive to what the 3 younger generations are looking for are going to be the winners in the challenge for talent.
Right. Okay.
And so, folks such as myself say, well, we've always done it this way. This is the way we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Probably are not going to be the winners in the workforce battle.
No. So then what do you suggest some of the perks or the changes, because you're right, I think with the boomers and that, I mean, you worked really long hours, you had a different work ethic, sometimes the family did suffer, they tended to be, whatever it takes, and you put in your 40 hours or more. I mean, a lot of those guys put in 50, 60, 80, I mean, sometimes it's crazy. I remember one time my husband was on site, he did 99 hours in 1 week, and I went, you're freaking crazy, first of all, but you know, they just did what it takes, and I don't think that's the mentality of the next generation. Not to say that they're not, you know, dedicated or whatever, but I don't think they have that mindset.
Well, it's different.
Okay.
They believe in working smarter, not necessarily working harder.
Sure.
You know, you mentioned briefly the study that Spherion has been doing. So for 22 years, we've been doing what's called the emerging workforce study.
Okay.
So we've surveyed over 200,000 employees, employers, companies across the country. You know, manufacturing professional, old, young. You know, all demographics.
Okay.
And it's a statistically valid, reliable study.
Wow.
And interestingly enough, it's been supervised by the same person that entire time. So it's not, okay, we did it this way and then we did it this way. So I mean, it's a good longitudinal study of what we've seen. Probably.
And retiring soon.
Probably.
And they're working 90 hours a week to get it done.
To get the study done, that's correct.
So, they need a succession plan.
But, you know, and it's funny you should say that. I mean, so, you know, usually we've done kind of like the work life cycle. You know, we talk about recruiting, retention. This year, the results came out a little bit different.
Okay.
We broke it down into different funnels. So one being talent shortage, which we just talked a little bit about.
Yeah.
One about wage equality.
Okay.
The remote workplace.
Yeah.
We talk about retention risks, work-life balance, which you just talked about, succession planning, as we just talked about all of the boomers that are retiring, diversity and inclusion, a very big topic today,
right?
Recruitment challenges, skills gap, which we mentioned briefly, and technology and social networking.
Okay.
So, you know, so those are 12 different components that we're talking about, and it's like, how are those impacting an organization's recruiting, and how are they impacting your retention moving forward?
Richard, have those 12, like, were they always in place with this survey, or has that changed over the 20 years that you've been doing that?
It's absolutely changed over the 20 years.
Wow.
You know, and you know what we mean by an emerging workforce. So we talk about a traditional worker, an emerging worker, and then a migrating worker. Okay. So that person who's got skills of both, or you know, components of both. So think of that traditional worker as, and I don't want this to come across, but as a union worker. Okay. You know, they've been doing their job. They've been working for the company for 30 years. They promoted over time. You know, it's very paternalistic organization. You know, top down. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it, and everybody's going to be treated the same.
Right. Okay.
And there are some workers who are very comfortable in that environment.
Sure, absolutely.
An emerging worker is much more entrepreneurial, for a lack of a better term. They believe that their actions, their work product should determine their success. I should get promoted because I'm doing a good job, I'm bringing value to the organization, I want to learn new skills, I want to do new things, and then I'm ready to move on to my next challenge. Okay. Same thing, that a company, an emerging company, is one that allows their workers to do that.
Okay.
A traditional company is, again, that paternalistic, you know, you're going to get a raise when you've been there for 5 years, whatever it might be. And then that emergent worker and that emergent company, or that migrating, is in the middle.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, do you even think those paternalistic ones are changing a bit too? Because when you go into a lot of the manufacturing plants and that now, they seem to be, like I think of Embraer, and you go in there in the work environment, I mean, they're building planes and they have white walls, white floors, it's immaculate. They seem to have a different mentality for their employees. And I know they have a full-time recruiter in there, and it seems like that old idea of with the unions and you know, kind of what I used to think of as what a manufacturing plant would be like has moved along too, because I mean, I think everybody appreciates having some flexibility and contributing to the work, you know, and I mean, I know some is repetitive. I realize that. I'm not saying that.
Right.
But,
I mean, clearly a manufacturer has a more difficult time. It's hard to build something remotely.
Sure. Right. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can't not be on the line when they need you.
You've got to be there doing whatever those tasks are.
Right. Yes.
But your point is, I mean, robotics is coming. So they're no longer on the line doing the task. They're operating the robots that are doing the tasks.
Got it.
Okay, so yes, it's changing, but there's a lot of different components that go into that, and so we can talk about, one of the real driving factors for the younger generations is they are very socially conscious.
Okay.
Now, why? Because there's instant gratification, there's instant feedback, there's so much information out there that they see what is going on. And they are very socially conscious, and they want to be involved, and they want to give back to whatever is their passion.
Sure. Right.
So they look for organizations that parallel what their passions are.
Okay.
So, one of the things that's a great attractor and retainer for younger generations is those socially conscious companies that say, when you buy our socks, we provide socks to homeless or whatever that might be.
Toms and shoes.
Right. So, now the thing is, once you say that, you have to do it.
Right. Yes.
Or those employees will be just as likely to pick at your organization or talk poorly about your organization because I'm saying I'm doing this, but I'm not actually doing it.
Yes.
So, and that same thing goes into, diversity and inclusion. The younger generations are much more welcoming of diversity and inclusion because, again, everything is out there. It's not like, there are these big funnels and silos that I've never seen X before.
Right.
So, again, organizations that are much more diverse and inclusive also find that they are more creative, they are more emerging because they have a lot of different people providing input into their organizations.
Right.
Now we talked a little bit before we started about some of the myths of the younger generations and I don't want to hire them, they're job hoppers and whatever that case may be.
Yeah.
The thing about younger workers is they are more educated and technologically advanced than any generation before that.
Right.
So whereas some of us still try to master computer technology, we won't mention any names there, Nancy.
No, we won't.
But when they master a skill set, they're ready to move on to another skill set.
Oh yeah.
They want to learn. They want to increase their knowledge base.
Wow.
This makes it extremely hard for small companies.
Yeah.
Because if you can't provide them additional learning opportunities or additional skills, they're going to go someplace else to get that. So you hear a company say, well, I don't want to bring them in and train them.
Right. Yes.
And then lose them.
Right. It's expensive.
And
so because Keith is a nonprofit, so that's one of the things. Well, and so is the chamber. But so what are you finding, Keith? Because usually nonprofits don't have the same kind of budget. You are sort of the jack of all trades because you never have enough staff. So how are you finding getting the employees that you're kind of?
It's tough. I think in general, small businesses, this is probably the most critical part of running a business, maybe even more so than revenue generation, which may sound weird, but I mean, I personally feel if you have the right people in place, things will happen. But getting those right people in place takes luck and a lot of other things to kind of fall in place. But one of the things that you mentioned about nonprofit work is you are kind of a jack of all trades. So I think that's great because like my days are never the same. Like whatever I did yesterday isn't going to work today.
Right.
But it also keeps my staff engaged because they can do different things and they kind of have an opportunity to customize their job description. Where when you come into an established company that sometimes you don't have that opportunities. I couldn't sit at my desk and do budgets all day long, or I would have to kill myself. But I love working on budgets, but I only have to do it for a couple of hours a month, which is enough. But so I like that variance, and I think a lot of nonprofits are like that, where you get to do different things every day.
So do you think because you're saying that the millennials are more cause-driven, that you think it would be easier for nonprofits to align with their, how they want to give back? Or I mean, the one, and I don't know if this is a myth, but the one thing that we kind of think about the millennials is that they instantly think that they are management material and should be making so many dollars without, really having that work experience. Are you finding that as something that's true, or?
I think, we mentioned succession planning real briefly.
Yes.
And one of the issues that we have is, as the senior leadership of organizations leave, how have we trained and prepared the younger generation? Now, who's that responsibility? Well, that's our responsibility as that leader of the organization now.
Right.
So we've got to be providing those leadership skills and training for those folks to be able to move within the organization. And again, depending on what your jobs are, what your business is, that kind of determines to some degree what those skills are. If you're a CNC manufacturing facility, you need master machinists.
Right.
So again, depending on whether you're in a skilled trade,
sure,
or whether you're in more of just a white collar business, depends on what those skill sets need to be. But you need to be putting training plans in place to be able to move that person from where they're at today to where you need them to be in 5 to 10 years.
And do you think because there's such a shortage of workers that it's probably almost automatically going to increase, I don't want to say the minimum wage, but really the minimum that you're going to have to pay people just because there aren't enough employees to go around, so they have to raise that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we're seeing right now. In fact, here's a couple of snapshots from our study.
We like snapshots.
42% of employees are not happy with their current salary. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that nationwide?
Nationwide. So look at just under half are saying I'm not happy with my current salary.
Right.
Turnover is coming. 21% are planning to leave their jobs within 3 months. 29% are planning to do so within 12 months. It's especially true for the Gen Z and millennials. Okay. Only 45% are satisfied with their ability to maintain work-life balance. 62% of employees say they receive less flex time than they did last year.
Really? Wow.
Only 18% of employees feel that their companies are putting more effort to retain them than they did last year.
Okay, and what would that look like? What kind of effort would you to retain them?
Again, the great thing is it's all dependent on the employee. So unless you're asking your staff what they want, and this is where that flexibility comes into. We talk, an 18-year-old is looking at something different than a 30-year-old with small children or a 55-year-old empty nester.
Right.
So you have to be able, for those organizations that can adjust those things to the different workers, are going to be able to have that better opportunity to retain staff.
And are you finding that sometimes those are offering that type of thing? I mean, money is, obviously important, but sometimes having the flexibility or
money right now is the number one driver.
And it's
no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Money right now is the number one driver. 71% of employers are worried about their talent shortage this year, where they're going to find those people, which is up from last year.
Oh boy.
And only 33% of employers believe their employees are highly engaged.
Okay.
But 48% of the employees think they're highly engaged.
Oh, okay. That's
so, and there's always a disconnect between what employers think are key and what employees think are key. Yes. Which again gets back to, you don't know unless you ask your staff what's important to you.
Right. Okay.
Right now, money is the driver.
Okay.
So, as a consultative staffing firm, one of our things is we talk to our clients, what are you needing? Where are you at? Right. We do a salary survey every 2 years for the local markets that we serve.
Oh, really? Okay.
So we know what the wages are out there, the 25th, 50th, 70% for different types of jobs.
Okay.
And without a doubt, typically, they're on the lower end of the pay scale.
Okay.
And it's like, well, I just keep turning over people.
Right.
And it's like, well, I want you to go find people. And I'm going, I can do that, but you need to change your pay rates.
Okay. Richard, what part of benefits comes into that when you're talking about salary? Like, is that a big
strictly salary?
So you're just talking salary.
Just talking salary right now. So, if if a company is paying $10 an hour and the market wage is 14, what's going to happen?
Right, they're gonna not get either qualified
Okay.
people, not get
Or
people.
They're going to get the
stick
people
around.
that aren't going, that aren't able
yeah.
to get that $14 an hour job for
Right.
whatever reason.
Right.
Okay. And then it's like, well, I don't have the right people, or they're leaving. So, understanding the marketplace is key today. The other thing that you see, and it's just a part of being in business, is the longer a person is in a job, the farther behind their wages become.
Yeah.
So, you've been at some place for 10 years and, you didn't get if you started in 07,
Right.
let's
Yes,
say,
yeah.
and there were no wage
Increases, yeah,
during the
true.
recession,
Yeah.
and then now you may be getting, well, I'm still not sure when we come out that where we're going to be. And so,
Right.
maybe you increased in that 10 or 12 years, 5 or 6%,
Right.
where the market now, you should be 15% higher than where you're at.
Okay.
So this gets back to that first question of why employees are looking to leave, is they know where they've been.
Right.
Their wages have been artificially kept low, where they know if they go across the street,
Right.
they're going to get a 15% raise.
Okay. So then, what are your suggestions for those companies that don't have a budget to be able to?
So it's
do
that
15%.
Well, and it's that balance of you want employees that have been with your company for a
Yes,
long
to
time and
stay.
got some longevity, yet you also have to bite the bullet and pay them, I guess, to justify them staying there, and that can be a tough balance.
And it doesn't have to be. I like to incentivize my staff.
Okay.
So a base plus an incentive for whatever it is that your job title does. So and again, if you talk about, let's go back to that millennial generation. First off, they like feedback quickly.
Okay.
So they don't like that. Okay, I'm going to tell you once a year how you're doing.
Okay. Right.
Okay.
Right.
They want to be told on a consistent basis. I'm doing well. I did. And so you have the ability. If you're reviewing somebody monthly or quarterly, hey, you did a really good job. You met all your stuff. I'm going to give you, $1,000.
Okay.
Whatever it might be.
Right.
So again, if you can be creative on how you provide that, because you're not now locking yourself into a long-term salary increase.
Right.
And
when you say quarterly or every 6 months, do you mean a formal sit down to go over performance, or?
I've never been a big believer in the sit down and because first off, nobody ever tells each other the truth anyhow.
Right. No, that's true.
Okay.
Right.
You did really well. No, you didn't. But
Okay. Yes, Orda.
So I think it's much better to sit down with the staff and talk with them in the moment about what's going on. Okay. Look, you're doing really well in these areas. These are the areas I think that you would want to be working on. Because again, if we're looking at, we want them to be able to. I don't want to be working when I'm 70.
Right.
Okay. I want to be able to get people moving in the organization so that we're if I'm not there, doesn't miss a beat.
Not falling apart.
Okay. Yeah. To do that, you've got to really be able to have confidence that, look, I've prepared them, they're ready to go.
Right.
What might, where we might go with that.
Well, that was one of the conversations. We had a board retreat on strategic planning session on Friday, and that was one of the topics, and we didn't get to that, but was succession planning. Because when you're a smaller organization and if one of your key people is out, how do you recover? We kind of went through that. We were scrambling a bit, and it was, a serious challenge to meet everything that we needed to do when one of our key employees, wasn't here. And then when there's uncertainty of when they're coming back and how long they're going to be out and that, then it's like, well, you don't want to hire somebody for the long period of time. And so it's a challenge for small businesses. And I have to say, when I called you and found out how much it would be, it's like, wow, because we haven't had to hire somebody in a while. So then, there's that, seeing what the marketplace is asking, and I think a lot of employers probably don't know if they haven't had to turn over their key people.
Mhm.
You know, and I mean, there might be sort of the entry levels that are turning over, but if your key people at the higher levels, and you said that they haven't caught up because, you know, they've been there for 10, 15 years and they haven't had the increases that they should have, you know, what that looks like to replace them, I think probably could be eye-opening for a lot of businesses.
And, you know, and unfortunately, you know, I mean, I actually just had an employee been with me for about 5 years, just leave the organization. You know, he was approached by one of my competitors,
Sure.
and actually one of my competitors not even in the market.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And you know, he told him, "I'm not interested. You know, it's like family here. I'm very comfortable.
Right.
You know, and so you know, they came back to him and said, "Give us a number. You know,
Oh.
what would it take? What would
Wow.
it take for you to be interested?"
Right.
Okay.
Wow.
And he gave a number that was quite frankly $20,000 more than I was paying.
Oh.
And I was paying him a fair wage.
Wow. Okay.
And he said, "I had to take it." I said, "Sure you did. You'd be foolish if you didn't."
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
So the offer isn't always market,
right.
because it also depends on how badly that other company
yes, to get
needs to get the person, because they're not meeting production, going to lose contracts, whatever that might be.
Right.
So,
right. Wow.
you know, and there are going to be some of those you're just, you know, I mean, my response is, look, if it doesn't work out for you, you are more than welcome to come back.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, you know, also a part of our responsibility is to prepare people
yes.
to take that next step, and
right.
you know, not stand in their way
right.
when they have that opportunity.
Right.
I mean,
right. No, I mean, that's
what we do as a good employer in the community is to be able to recognize that, you know, I'm not going to compete with this.
Right. Right.
And they need to move forward and, you know, increase the tax base in the community and,
yes.
you know, do great things.
Right. Right. And I think that's, you know, as an employer, we do become selfish because, you know, it's the thought of, okay, now I have to look and get somebody else. They might not be the same. Then you have to train them. They, you know, might not stay with us too long. And so, yeah, we do have that tendency to want to hold on to people rather than, you know, have them blossom and move on. But that's a very selfish thing. And it is, I think, for their personal growth, for them to want to know that we have their best interest at heart.
Yeah, I mean, the other part of this is, you know, that helps solidify retention is the onboarding process. You know, when you bring that person into your organization, the better able you are to onboard them, make them feel a part of the organization, welcome them, you know, pair them up with a mentor, whatever it is that your organization does.
Right.
And it's not, okay, you've been here a week, you know, you're good to go at it.
Oh, so that was bad. We were in crisis the last one we hired. It was like, oh man.
But sometimes that's the case. It's like, you know, and then you just kind of, and they're going,
yeah, right.
Wait a minute, I'm not ready for this. And so what do they start doing? I'm going to start looking someplace else because.
I think too, Nancy, like with smaller shops, that's harder to do because I think the smaller organizations or companies, you're doing more, you have more job responsibilities.
Right.
So to take on that, making sure that I'm mentoring this new employee is just another thing that you have to add to your plate, and your plate's already overflowing. And it's
well, and it comes back to that succession planning. You know, small businesses actually need to plan more than they typically do.
Absolutely.
Yes, you're right.
You know, you know, when am I going to need? You know, what are the key indicators that are going to tell me I need to add another person? Okay, I can't wait till, oh my goodness, I'm so far in the woods. I need to add another person. No, we needed to add another person 6 months ago.
Right.
To begin to train them.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
You know, how do I budget for that? How do I plan for that?
Do you have any kind of I don't know, over, like, you know, where you look at, okay, at this level of growth, this is when you can add somebody on? Are there sort of like, or
I think every entity needs to have their own KPIs as far as, you know, what are we measuring? What are our key performance indicators that we're measuring? And they should know when the thing's, okay, I need to take the next step. You know, I need to be going to the thing. You know, we spend a lot of time talking to our clients.
Right.
I mean, for us, it's a partnership. It's not just, oh, you need a body here, I'm going to throw you a body.
Right.
I need to understand. I mean, somebody called me and said, well, can you give me a quote?
Right.
No, I really can't. I don't know what, I don't know what you do.
What you need.
I don't know
Right.
what you need.
Right.
I need to have a better understanding. I mean, there are people they can get quotes from, don't get me wrong.
Oh,
but,
sure. But,
you know, that's not the way we're going to do it. We really
Right.
want to understand what it is you do.
Right.
How can we partner? Because we want to be your workforce partner. We want to help you through some of these challenges so that we're helping you with your recruiting. We're helping you with your retention. You know, we're talking to you. You know, the nice thing about Spherion, you know, we're owned by Randstad, which is the number 1 or 2 biggest staffing company in the world.
Wow. Okay.
Randstad owns Monster.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we have a lot of insight as far as what's going on out there in the workforce.
Yeah.
Across the country and across the world.
Right.
So, you know, we want to be able to provide that insight to our clients.
Okay.
As far as, you know, this is what we're seeing out there. You know, this is what we're seeing working. This is what we're not seeing working. You know, so the ability, and the thing is, especially with small business or with manufacturers, we get all wrapped up in, I got to get the product out the door or whatever it is.
Yes.
I'm not looking about what's going on in the big picture.
Right. Right.
You know, I don't even know what's going on in Melbourne, let alone with Florida or the country or whatever.
All,
So, you know, the ability to engage the chamber or the EDCs or those other organizations in your communities to help provide you, you know, some insight and some support is, you know, what makes organizations such as the chamber valuable.
Sure.
Because you have the ability to, you know, get out of your thing and talk to your peers about what are you seeing.
Right.
Oh, so I'm not alone on this. There's other people that are seeing that. What are you doing? How, you know, what are you finding effective?
Right.
So, you know, all of those things go into trying to make that happen.
Well, and I think, you know, with the chamber, one of the things I said is that we don't know everybody, but we can help connect you to the right people. But we're also a source of information because we do have relationships with the EDC and the tourism, TDC, and, you know, the different companies. And so we can disseminate that information so that they're not having to go to city council meetings when something important affecting businesses, you know, we can send that out to them. So what do you think is one of the number one challenges that the small business people are facing, and kind of a solution? Because if you're saying that, you know, they're all looking for qualified people, but, you know, there's not that many out there. What are some strategies or, you know, creative ways?
You need, you know, let's talk about recruiting. You need to become very creative on your recruiting strategy. You can't use the same strategy for the whole organization.
Right.
Okay. If I need somebody that is bilingual and, you know, is going to do this, or this, okay, where would I find that person? Okay. And I need to go look there. Do I need to go to, I mean, you know, we'll go to a Hispanic grocery store and hang out and hand out flyers outside the doors.
Right.
Okay. Going to Hispanic mass. Okay. Stand outside talking to people.
Right.
So again, you know, recruiting is grassroots. It's word of mouth. Okay. Talking to your good employees that you have and say, you got a friend that's just like you that would like to come to work here?
Maybe me.
I mean, you know, and then providing them a finder's fee for helping you find that person. Because that's cheaper than putting an ad in Indeed or whatever that might be.
All the,
Okay. So, but you have to look at, you have to think about, okay, where does this person work?
Right.
Where does this person play? Where are they at online? You know, where, you know, they're going to have kids. Where would, you know, if they're going to be finding them at the soccer fields?
Right.
You know, figuring out, okay, where do I need to pinpoint my recruiting efforts to get the outcome that I'm looking for?
Oh, yeah. Wow. And what do you think is one of the number one things that most businesses do wrong when they're trying to hire somebody?
I think you need to, first off, you need to talk about your organization.
Okay.
You can't, you know, and you have to do it throughout the process. You know, you think about, well, you know, everybody knows I do these things.
Right.
No, they don't.
Right, I know.
Okay.
Does your board even know all that you do? No.
So, you know, being able to say, you know, if you come to this organization, these are the things that we can offer for you. You may not be interested in all of them today, Okay, maybe you're only interested in these things, but 5 years from now, maybe you're interested in something different.
Right.
So, we have the opportunity to be able to provide a host of things for you.
Okay.
And the other part of it is talking to, you've got to be talking to your staff about what it is that is important to you to want to stay with our organization.
Okay, so we just got to know. So we are not able to see our Facebook today with friends that have joined us. So do a little shout out to Tommy, Tom Mecarello. Always great to have you on. And we've got Mark Gallegos. So we thank you for joining us. And I'm sure there's others, but that's what we have right now. We also appreciate your views and comments, and we have our expert here today with Richard, and we're kind of excited because to have somebody in the industry for the length of time that you've been in it, and I'm sure you've seen so much. So now you said the number one requirement right now is wages.
Correct.
But what about healthcare? Because that seems to be a huge concern, especially for small businesses that aren't able to afford that. I mean, what are you finding with the workforce and what they're looking for?
It's really dependent on the person.
Okay.
I mean, I've got that 18, 19-year-old, healthcare probably is not on the top of their list.
Okay.
So I think you have to look at all of the benefits that you offer. I mean, I have an employee that works remotely for me.
Mm-hmm.
She's been doing that now for 3 or 4 years.
Nice.
When we first started, it's like, not sure how this is going to work.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
She had been a good employee. Her husband, they relocated to Alabama.
Oh, wow.
She's like, can I do this while I look for an opportunity there? I said, yeah, that's fine, because we got to find somebody to replace you.
Right.
And she said, you know what? This actually works. This works for me.
Okay.
Will it work for you? Can we continue to do it? And it's like,
all right.
So we've been continuing to do this now. Now she's back in Florida at least.
Okay. Closer.
And so, she's about an hour away. So we bring her into the office, every now and again, so that she's not completely like,
on her own.
Yeah. Who are you? What do you look like?
Yeah.
That type of thing. But again, sometimes it's experimenting as far as, we don't have a lot. I mean, the thing about our business is we can do it any place we have a phone and a computer.
Sure. Right.
So, our normal business hours are 8 to 5, Monday through Friday.
Okay.
But, if I had somebody who's, my child's graduating, from kindergarten or 8th grade or whatever, can I come in late?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's fine.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So again, organizations have the flexibility to allow their staff members to, I want to go, do a beach cleanup this morning or whatever those things might be.
Okay.
The more flexibility you give that employee,
right,
the better they're going to, want to be a part of your organization, and you're going to find out that their engagement and their productivity is better as well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think, if you just work straight through and don't take breaks, and then first of all, your mental capacity just doesn't handle that well. It's nice when you can take a break, and I don't know. You've
got to recharge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think for some, sometimes I sit here and work straight through, and I'm like, would I be more productive if I, just kind of stepped away for a bit and then came back, and then you're a little bit more, I don't know. I like the flexibility definitely of a job. I've never had a job where I couldn't, just kind of go when I needed to, just because I that's what I need. So, and recognizing.
And everybody needs different things.
Yes. And so I was never good at 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, although that's our hours, but yeah, not, because, I'm more of a night person. So going to the night events wasn't as much of a problem for me, so coming in for 9 when you're going to be out till 9 at night, you want to be able to have that flex. And so
absolutely.
Knowing what, I guess, your employees, and whether it fits into your business plan, because, for some,
ultimately, your business plan has to be successful.
Right.
That's the number one thing.
Right.
But to the extent that you can be flexible in how you do that, it helps.
Right.
We have a staffing tool that we work with our employees that, we can text them out job opportunities. Okay, I have this job tomorrow starting at 8 a.m. going to 4. If they're interested, first people sign up, get it.
Okay.
The amazing thing is when you sign up for the job, you're going to show up for work because you chose
that. Yeah.
to work that day.
Okay.
So, the ability to give the employees the flexibility to choose when they want to work.
Right.
Again, to the extent that you have the ability to do that.
Right.
So again, we work with clients that say, these are the shifts that are open. Fill them.
And you have people that don't want a full-time job. They
don't want a full-time. They want to work. Whether it's they want to be able to pick up their kids from school, take their kids to school, whatever it might be.
Sure.
Again, the gig economy is active out there in the world, and how you can help someone with their lifestyle.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. So the emerging workforce study the results we just got back for 2019. So, we were able to provide that. We bring in a person to do that study, do that presentation. So if organizations are interested, chambers, whatever, that would like somebody to come in and speak about that, we can also do those things. Yeah. The information that we share is really, and it's not rocket science. It's not something we don't already know, but sometimes it's just nice to hear it.
Right.
And then to be able to talk to your peers about,
absolutely. I think it was 2 years ago you had that at your office. And
yes, we did.
And I thought it was fascinating. And
in fact, we came up from down in Port St. Lucie.
And came up,
when Marge was doing it in her office.
Yes, and I thought it was fabulous. And I think that would be great to have for our members because I think one of the things is that when we did our Space Coast Symposium, we had Fortune 500 companies. So there was Lockheed and Northrop and Boeing and SpaceX and OneWeb, blah, blah, blah. Not SpaceX, we had OneWeb and Space Florida and United Launch Alliance and NASA. And that was their number one thing. Number one thing was getting employees.
It's everybody's number one thing right now.
And so it's like
that's the one thing that we're all together on.
We're all in agreement. And so, I was kind of looking this year at our symposium whether we should have a panel for that. To talk about what the schools are doing to train the next generation of workforce, have Career Source to talk about some of the things that, is trending in that. But, that might be something I look at because if that's businesses, whether they're large or small, if this is their number one challenge, we'd like to help with some of the solutions.
Yeah, on a separate note, I head up our Workforce Readiness Task Force at the EDC in St. Lucie County.
Okay.
And we're focusing on skilled trades, manufacturing, and healthcare.
Right.
And we've done a lot in the last 3 years, getting into the schools, bringing the counselors out to tour manufacturing facilities. We've had boot camps the last 2 years for kids coming out, taking them to manufacturers, to distribution centers, getting them jobs that first week after they're out of high school. Yeah. Getting them to understand what it means to be working in a manufacturing facility. You can make a good living.
Oh, absolutely.
You can make a good living, in the skilled trades. So, those things have to be done. They've got to be driven by the business community.
Right.
They're not going to happen magically.
Right.
They're not going to happen because a politician somewhere says we need to do this.
Right. No.
Okay? It needs to be driven by the business community.
Right.
And the more our business get involved in pushing that and making that happen, the better chance it's going to happen.
And, the EDC is doing the CPT program, so that is helpful. And there's a lot.
Yeah, we started a CPT apprenticeship program.
Oh, did you?
That's awesome.
Wow, that's really good. Because I think, I kept saying, I don't understand. When we were growing up, you could go in the trades. And now, I don't even see it as an option in that. So the school system here, they have started to do that.
The school systems have the training within the schools. I grew up north. You went to a VOTEP
right.
school.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a different model down here.
Right. Yes. It is.
But it's there. Part of it is getting the parent to understand this is not a bad word. They can go do this.
It's so much more economical.
Right.
Rather than getting a bachelor's degree, you can go and get a 6-month certification in something and have a job.
Right.
Probably paying comparable to having a bachelor's degree.
Again, we did the boot camp last year. There were 21 kids. I think 16 of them got jobs. You know, at the end of that
Wow.
first week.
That's amazing.
You know, with boat builders and
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
organizations down there. The one young man just told us last week, I bought my first car.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, a lot like to work with their hands or do something that's not, I mean, the parents got this where all their kids had to go to college. Everyone had to go to college, and none of the kids want to go to college. That's not their interest. So I think, yeah, opening, you know, the skill sets that they like.
we're to blame
Oh,
for
absolutely.
where we're at today.
Yes,
I mean, I
yes.
firmly believe that. You know, we wanted
Yes.
our kids to have better than we did.
Right.
You know, so on and so forth.
Right.
More college debt.
You
Yeah.
know, so
Exactly. Exactly.
you know, they're
Yeah.
You know, unlike again when I was growing up, you know, there are so many opportunities there. You don't even. It's impossible to even know what's all out there.
Right.
And
Right.
so many jobs aren't even here yet. They're going to be here in 15 years. They don't exist today.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to say that, well, you know, I believe if you're going to go to college to be an engineer,
Right.
you know, for something that's got a hard path that
Yeah.
you do that, you end up with a skill set that you can
Yes.
start with immediately when you're done with
Right.
college
Right.
is a great thing.
Right.
You know, I went to a liberal arts college, you know, but it taught me how to think.
Sure.
Okay. It taught me critical thinking skills.
Right.
The number one thing that you look at for employers that they're talking about is I need soft skills.
Right.
Critical thinking,
Okay. Yeah.
you know, processing. I mean, those are the
Exactly.
skill sets. Now, some of these things you can't get without experiential learning. You've got to experience being in the workforce. You've got to
Right.
understand how to, oh, this happens, I probably need to do this. Well, I tried that didn't work. I
Right.
guess I need to do something different.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Right.
And that comes to getting that millennial to that next step is some of it they just have to experience.
Right.
They have to understand and think through the process and understand if this didn't work, I need to try something different. If they keep doing the same thing over and over again,
Oh, yeah.
show them to your competitor.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Okay,
No, there's another opportunity for you elsewhere.
Richard, when you're in a hiring process, is there a good best practice for I should receive this many applications, I should do this many phone interviews, I want to weight it down to this many live interviews to get to my one candidate that I'm going to hire?
I prefer to look at it in a different way. So, you know, studies have proven if you do some testing of your candidates, whether it's a Wonderlic or another type of test, and some personality testing, and kind of have this is what I'm looking for, you're going to have better success long term. If you know that, you know, I need them to have this template will work for my organization.
So you actually think that you should personality test before you hire somebody?
It depends on the roles.
Okay.
Okay, but definitely that may be, you know, and I think the statistics I've seen is, you know, no testing at all, you're at like 50%.
Okay.
You know, then it goes up to 60 something, and then when you do everything, it's up to like 75%.
Right. Right.
Okay, so again,
Right.
how much do you want to spend up front
Sure.
versus what do you want to get on the backside?
To
Right.
improve your chances.
Your chances.
Right.
You know, the
Right.
other thing
I like
is especially in today's environment, you've got to be efficient. You've got to move through it quickly. If you're looking at those applications and it's taking you weeks to review them
They probably
and
have a
reach
job.
out to people, they're gone. Okay. You know, the client who says, well, I want to see 10 people, you know, I'm typically going, probably not the people you want to talk to.
Right.
Because after you talk to the first one, you talk to 10 people, you say you want the first one, they're gone.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, what I prefer to do is to say, tell me your must-haves.
Right.
Tell me your nice-to-haves.
Okay.
Tell me this would be a really great thing if I got it.
Right.
So if you tell me those, and I present you a candidate that's got all your must-haves, and you tell me no, the answer is, why'd you tell me no?
Right.
You just told me this is what they need to have.
Right.
Okay, so trying to get them to commit in the environment that we're in today.
Mm-hmm.
You're telling me this is what you need, and I give you this. All of these other things can be trained to.
Right.
Getting back
Right.
to that training that we talked about.
Right. Right.
Then, you know, you should be moving forward with the hiring decision.
Right.
Or
Right.
the information you provided me
It's not what
wasn't
Yeah.
truly accurate.
Right.
And a lot of times what people, I really don't know what I want.
Oh.
Okay. And that is a whole different problem.
Right. Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
So, but if you know what you want, if you know the skill sets you need, and somebody presents with all of those things you need, I recommend you pull the trigger.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think that's one of the things. It's like people are not on the market as long. You know, if they are, then yeah, you do have to question why. And so is that a problem too? Because you know, some people, like before, when they had been out of the workforce for a while and they have that gap in their resumes, or you see like they have one job after another. Is that as much as a problem as it once was, or
depends on the person reviewing?
Okay.
Okay. I mean, I like to look at, why did you leave? Well, I couldn't learn anything else here, so I went here because I could learn more skills. To me, that's an acceptable reason. Versus, well, I just didn't feel like going to work anymore there. Okay. So, you know, again, you have to understand what the reasoning is for.
Sure.
I mean, clearly when we came out of the recession, a lot of people hadn't been working for a time period.
Right.
You don't hold that against people.
Sure.
Some did.
Yeah, but
okay.
Yeah.
So again, you have to understand what the dynamic is that caused that.
Okay.
Well, you know, I was taking care of my parents.
Sure.
And, you know, unfortunately they've passed, but I'm now able to get back into the workforce.
Okay.
Okay. We're seeing that much more often.
Right. That sandwich generation.
Than we have in the past.
Right.
So, you know, understanding why they were out of the workforce, why they changed jobs is much more important than just the fact that there was a gap.
Okay. That makes sense.
How about, we've talked a lot about the X, Y, and Z generations. How about the older, like hiring boomers that just want,
It's an excellent option. And, you know, I've got some clients that are absolutely want to do that. I've got some clients that are like, not interested. Again, 3% unemployment, somebody wants to work and they meet your skill set and your qualifications, then I would absolutely, I mean, we got a lot of people who retired early.
Right, sure.
You know, we're living longer.
Right.
So it's like, I'm bored.
Right.
You know, it may not have anything to do with the money.
Yeah,
it may just be,
bored.
I want to be productive.
Right.
Now, you know, some of it you have to look at is, you know, some of the older folks, I don't want to drive at night.
Right.
So the job's got to fit the requirements.
Sure.
But I'm all for, typically, if you're an employer, you're not worried about benefits. I mean, you know, when you're looking at the overall cost, that senior employee is probably cheaper from a benefit perspective than other folks are.
Right. Well, there does seem to be some ageism still. So.
You know, the thing is too, I mean, you know, the younger generations are very adamant about calling out wrongs, whether it's harassment. You know, if you look at the Me Too thing, that's created a lot of companies going back and looking at their policies, making changes. So, you know, people are much more willing to step up now to talk about this is wrong. You know, this needs to change.
Richard, we have a question online too.
You can read over there?
From Mark, yes.
Yeah, and we're also almost at our 3 o'clock, so you read.
What do you suggest for resume presentation?
Well, that's general.
So, you know, I prefer, you know.
I guess that's format.
I prefer, you know, a 1 to 2 page resume. You know, clearly if you've been in the workforce for 30 years, you don't need to go back to 30 years of work experience. It's irrelevant. You know, so, and I like it, you know, from soonest, most recent to the older.
So do you like it by jobs or skill set?
I like it by jobs.
You do.
And I want to see what you accomplished on the job. I don't necessarily want to see what your job was.
Right.
I want to know what you accomplished. Now, again, that depends on where you're at in the organization.
Sure.
But, you know, if you're an accountant or a professional, for me, it's more about your accomplishments than, you know, I spent 10 years and, you know, I answered the door.
Right.
Now, again, earlier in your career, it's more about what were the things that my job entailed, because you probably didn't have the opportunity to accomplish as much.
Right.
Anything you did accomplish, though, you want to put it in there.
Okay.
And you want to put it in terms of I mean, I like numbers. I like, you know,
Yeah.
increased revenue by $2 million.
Right.
To me is different than I increased revenue by 100%.
Right.
Well, I went from 1 to 2.
Right.
You know, is 100%. That doesn't necessarily mean that.
Right.
You know, so the extent that you can really delineate what you want
Okay.
is key to me.
Wow. Wow. Well, we could do another whole hour on all that kind of stuff. Well, we are at the top of the hour, so we thank you for joining us. I want to thank our special guest. We had Richard Kolleda from Spherion Staffing, the owner of Spherion Staffing, and Keith G., my regular co-host from Children's Hunger Project. If you have some other questions in that, please feel free to reach out to us. You know, we can always address them on our next episode. We always are on here the third Tuesday of every month from 2 to 3, so you can watch us live on Facebook, but you can also go back and see this video because we do tape it. So I want to thank both of our gentlemen for being with me today, and thank you for joining us. Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
Bye all.